Hi, and welcome to the sophomore video of the channel, and one I've had planned for a few months. I have to admit, I'm really good at procrastination, which, as a skill, is not a particularly enviable one to have. This is Fletcher Hamilton, and I'm your eponymous host. As you may already know, or if you don't know, I'll lay it out for you, it's the intent of this channel to buffer against the excesses of lefty tosser crap dumped out by New Zealand media outlets. And in our sights this week is an opinion piece that appeared on the website of the New Zealand Herald, dated 21st of March 2019. Like I said, this is a late, long time planned response. And the title of the piece is I am white and privileged. ... It's time to make big changes. The author of this wonderful article is one Brodie Kane. Hey, cool name. Any relation to the Reverend Henry Kane in the Poltergeist saga? Anyway, presently, Brodie is the co-host of The Hits, teaming up with Dave Fitzgerald to present the local breakfast show from 6 to 9 a.m. The Hits, formerly Classic Hits 97 FM, is owned by New Zealand Media and Entertainment. Back when I listened to Classic Hits, it was some catchy pop songs from any given top 40 singles chart, some local, domestic, and international headlines, and a whole lot of inane opinion waffling. I guess that part hasn't changed. I don't know. I know how it is when you have to talk at length just to dispel the silence, which must be quite a skill to apply to a job, but, well, I don't know. Just a little cursory Google search of Brodie, and we get a whole plethora of hits that I think really demonstrate what kind of person she really is. The Hits host Brodie Kane lost 11 kg and ran her first marathon. First time for everything. Radio host Brodie Kane talks empowering women. With several marathons, a podcast, and a radio gig under her belt, Brodie is no stranger to success. Brodie Kane gets her kit off in unphotoshopped underwear. Ooh, a no thank you on that one. Brodie Kane has bravely got her kit off to help promote body positivity. Yep. So you get the picture of the sort we're dealing with here, although you might not even want a picture. I wouldn't blame you. So, without further ado, let's launch straight into Brodie's Herald opinion piece. The sooner we start, the sooner we get to finish. Brodie Kane. I am white and privileged. It's time to make big changes. Dated 21st of March 2019, 5:42 p.m. New Zealand Herald by Brodie Kane. Comment. Hi, my name is Brodie Kane. I am white, and I am privileged. All right. White and privileged? Or privileged because you're white? I suspect I already know where you're going with this one. And I am disappointed in myself that it's taken me the most horrific of unthinkable acts to give myself the biggest uppercut I've ever administered in my life. Well, uppercut yourself to your heart's content, Brodie, but I have a feeling you're not going to keep the self-harm to yourself. In fact, I have a sneaking suspicion you're going to apply this metaphorical beat-up to all of us, white people, in the form of so much finger-wagging and tut-tutting. Am I right? I, like so many Cantabrians, like so many New Zealanders, have actually not been able to cope with nor comprehend the callous killing of 50 innocent people here in Christchurch, an unbelievably, downright ghastly attack on our Muslim community, who were in their most sacred, peaceful place. Yes, the attack was unbelievable and ghastly. Nobody contests that. Nobody disagrees there. And mosques are sacred to Muslims, sure, but I can't help but wonder if you'd apply that same term, sacred, to, say, the Christchurch Cathedral. Would you describe Christchurch Cathedral as sacred, Brodie? It's still under reconstruction to this day, only 8 years after the 2011 Christchurch quake. Are Anglican churches sacred, Brodie? What about St. Matthew's in the city in the Auckland CBD? Is that sacred too? Or would you only describe mosques as sacred? As far as I know, you've never openly advocated for more funds to be directed to the reconstruction of the Christchurch Cathedral, so I guess that joint isn't so sacred then? Turning the page. Because I actually bothered to print this with my own printer paper, and whoa, Brodie dominates page 2 in a lavish, full-colour photo spread of herself. She's decked out in a rocking leather biker jacket with a semi-transparent long dress and silver-heeled boots, and the whole ensemble is finished up with some cheerful yellow earrings. And Brodie saunters nonchalantly forward, hands on hips, hair blowing back photogenically behind her head as she smiles with sweet, good-natured radiance. This photo is captioned, "The Hits host, Brodie Kane, reflects on what she wants to change after the Christchurch mosque terror attack." Well, yeah, Brodie. I can see all that sorrow, contrition, and resolve to change all right there. The camera really captured that quintessence of regret and compunction. She continues, "Killed by someone I legitimately have no words to describe, and will give no more time from here on in. Okay, a little bit of smug halo grabbing, but maybe fair enough. Good thing you don't have to profile him or describe him to a police sketch artist, then, I guess. But fair enough. Fair enough. But what I will give time to, what I must give time to, is what this awful event has done to change the way I am going to be as a human being." Okay, let's see how this plays out. Are you going to change, citing examples, or are you just going to wax lyrical as well as racial with white guilt and tell us how awful we are by default of simply being white? I need to be clear, this is not some sort of "look at me, look what I am doing" piece. This is me being honest about how I want to do better, how I must do better. "Look at me, look what I am doing" is exactly what you're doing in this article, Brodie. Otherwise, why not just do it in lieu of any formal proclamation? What kind of kudos do you think you're going to get out of this public edict of your resolve? What are you angling for here? We all know, in spite of your claim to the contrary, you're writing this for attention, which is a point I'll address later. I can no longer live the life I live. I can no longer wake up as a privileged white woman in my nice house with a comfortably financed mortgage, hop into my nice car, drive to my well-paid job where I have the privilege to speak on the radio for 3 hours about whatever I want to. And here we go. You're a privileged white woman with a nice house, comfortably financed mortgage, nice car, and a well-paid job on the airwaves where you get to talk about anything you like for 3 hours, all of which you mean to suggest is the result of your skin tone and how much better people treat you as a result of that. And inversely, that other ethnic groups don't have these things or cannot access these things. So what you're really saying is that white people are racist collectively. That's a racist statement by definition, but you also assume that ethnic minorities don't have these things or can't get these things because they're darker. That's racist too. You're really raising your racist game here, Brodie, but hey, at least you're an equal opportunity racist. I can no longer jump back into that nice car after work, put on my nice gym gear, hop off to one of the 3 gyms I belong to, and work out. Nice, nice. In spite of all this outpouring of grief and contrition, you still find the words to let us know how dedicated you are to your exercise regime, and by extension, how great you must look as a result of that regime. Good for you, Brody. Look, I know that sounds dramatic, but what I'm actually trying to say to you is that I can no longer go around living my life with my white, privileged head shoved up my own backside. Oh, I agree with you there, Brody, but regardless, I think you will continue to go around with your white, privileged head shoved up your backside. I really think that will continue to happen. I need to be better. I must be better. I am a person who believes that I am friendly and welcoming and have always been very embracing of other cultures, race, or religion. Look, I know that sounds dramatic, but what I'm actually trying to say to you is that I can no longer go around living my life with my white privileged head shoved up my own backside. Oh, I agree with you. You can't continue doing that, but I think you will, regardless. Let's continue. I need to be better. I must be better. I am a person who believes that I am friendly and welcoming, and have always been very embracing of other cultures, race, or religion. I spent 2 years studying Middle Eastern politics and learnt a fair bit about Islam when I was at university. So I am, all of a sudden, tapping into the things I learnt more than 10 years ago. Okay, things such as what, for example? And how are you applying aforesaid things to this current scenario? And you say you spent 2 years studying the Middle East for a 3-year degree? What degree was that? Middle Eastern Studies? Again, I don't know what the component courses of that degree are, and indeed I don't know what your degree actually is, but okay. Okay, fair dues. Fair enough. But here is the thing. What have I actually done to help my community be a better place? Well, you already answered your own question, Brody. You've already claimed that you are friendly and welcoming, that you are always very embracing of other cultures. I also presume you pay taxes, so a lot of that would be redirected into social welfare programs to help recent migrants or anybody dealt a bad hand at any given time, as well as your contribution to health, education, and other social programs via your taxes. And you definitely sound very active in your community, and through your job you provide entertainment. Or at least you aspire to, anyway. Isn't all of that enough? What have I done to embrace the minority races and religions in my community? Not a damned thing. But you already claimed to be embracing them, right? I can wake up every day and cruise around in my white privileged life and somehow tell myself that because I will always say hi in the dairy or have a great yarn with the Uber driver that I am in some way an inclusive person? No, it's not enough. Then what is enough? Are you actually going to stop waffling and give some concrete examples of what you can do to embrace migrants? Who, by the way, you assume are solely comprised of shop clerks and taxi drivers. Isn't that assumption just a little bit somewhat racist? That all immigrants or minority groups are merely blue collar workers? If in some way I could take back the hurt and suffering of Friday, I would. Yes, as every reasonable and normal human being on planet Earth would. What an empty, pointless platitude. But let me tell you this. The time has come for us all to give ourselves an uppercut, because, in actual fact, we aren't some peace haven. Well, you uppercut yourself, Brody. Maybe you can dislodge some of that rubbish blocking your brain. I don't require any uppercut, metaphorical or otherwise. Thanks very much. We, as a nation, now have an obligation to walk the talk. Great. I admire the resolve, but again, what do you suggest we do? What tangible actions or exploits do you recommend we implement? Because all you've done in this article is sold us a piece of self-aggrandizement dressed up as self-flagellation. Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see." So why not lead by example, Brody? I'll give you some examples in the conclusion if you can't think of any yourself. I have several, in fact. Our outpouring of grief, sadness, love, and support must now transform into action. It won't come overnight in some magical "we're all one" kind of epiphany. Grief, sadness, love, and support, all highly visible in that photo op, right, Brody? As I watch my Muslim community respond to this tragedy with empathy, compassion, forgiveness, and love, I know I have to be better. I must be better. My Muslim community? What does that even mean? Is she a part of the Muslim community? Or does she mean that the Muslim community is one she has some direct influence over? Or is that possessive pronoun meant to express solidarity from one community to a separate community within that wider one? I don't get it. I really don't. Great. So, in summary, how can we recap this opinion piece and offer some viable solutions that Brody might implement to alleviate her sense of raging white guilt beyond mere self-reproach? Well, the article seems to serve two functions. One is that of a self-promotional piece, insofar as that Brody uses the Christchurch Mosque massacre as a springboard to propagandize what a great and caring person she is, and how many nice, shiny things she has, but then turns it around to collectively condemn and demonize all Pakeha, or white people. Good job, Brody. Good job. The second function of the article is presumably to encourage us to be better, without offering any real, solid means or methods to achieve that. So, as I said, I thought I'd offer you a few. Be the change you want to see, and all that. Just understand that my suggestions might be ever so slightly tongue-in-cheek. Props to you, Brody, for providing that little inventory of your nice, shiny things. I see you definitely have the means and assets to help others, by your own admission, so let's try and utilize those assets to help some non-white people in your community. You have a nice house, so why not let out a room to a migrant family, or even a migrant individual? Better yet, why don't you just let them stay rent-free so they can save for a deposit down on a place of their own? Or why not let a family park their caravan in your driveway and just park your cool, sweet wheels on the curbside? And on that topic, why not lend that nice car of yours to some migrant students a few days, or a week or so? Save them the cost and hassle of public transport, which we all know is almost non-existent in New Zealand anyway. Or how about this? If all immigrants are of the blue-collar variety, why don't you relinquish your job in favour of a minority replacement? And, just finally, off the top of my head, just spitballing here, you belong to 3 gyms. Why not just cut out the gym memberships and donate that money to charity, or to any entity that might assist migrants and the community at large, such as the Citizens Advice Bureau, if they do accept donations, or just pay that money toward an additional voluntary tax figure with the rest of your taxes? Can't you just pound the pavement in some well-worn Nikes and sweats instead? I used to go to my local gym, and I don't remember the membership there being particularly cheap, let alone 3. Lead by example, Brody. Be the change yourself. Lead by example and stop ordering us to do some undefinable something from up high on your gold-gilded perch. Or, better yet, do those things, or some of them at least, and don't tell us. Charity for the sake of self-promotion is really not quite as charitable as it is merely self-serving after all. But no, people like this, they don't want to bear any of the burden of the actual responsibility for their own claims of white privilege. Rather, they assert that, given their unique position, to understand that, along with their extraordinary insights into society and themselves, and how those two rivers flow together, therefore they don't have to make any sacrifices, but they get to demand others need to make sacrifices. They get to retain all the benefits of their alleged white privilege as they dump the wages of that particular original sin of whiteness onto all the other white sinners, only excluding themselves, of course. They claim that success, white success, is an extension of their and our whiteness, instead of hard work, sacrifice, motivation, ambition, determination, planning, and forward thinking, and that by admitting that, therefore they are exonerating themselves of responsibility. Isn't that what you've tried to do here, Brody? Exonerate yourself of any responsibility of your whiteness, which you say is the reason for your success, and in doing so, you get to declare to the nation that you're just the cat's pajamas, good for you. What an absolute joke, and at the worst possible time. You know, back in the day, it was Karl Marx who said the proletariat would rise up and overthrow the bourgeois to usher in some commie John Lennon utopia. It's the same idea today, but instead of class, the mechanisms of seeding resentment are now race and identity. And it's scary how many Kiwis are swallowing that bait. Hook, line, sinker, the whole damned catamaran. So, there we have it, anyway. Calling out New Zealand leftist tosser claptrap, one piece at a time. Now, of course, I strongly encourage you not to harass Brody. This video is only intended to serve as a counter and response to her opinion, which she consented to being published, and in no way is intended to rile up any unwarranted enmity toward Brodie Kane or the New Zealand Herald in general. I implore you not to contact her for any unorthodox reasons, and of course, do not email her with any harassing emails. So, we'll wrap up there. Comment below, feel free to like and subscribe, or indeed, dislike and not subscribe, your prerogative, and I'll catch you lot on down the trail. Adios, New Zealand.